gentlemen, the last 3 days of TSS 2021 have passed by in what seems to be a flash. We've now arrived at the last panel discussion of day 3. However, this panel is equally high octane and power packed. The topic for this session is deep tech and analytics, driving optimal outcomes across energy and water conservation. Joining us are esteemed panelists. First up is Mr. Sridhar Gadhi, founder and executive chairman at Quantela Inc. Next, Mr. Kesari, co-founder and chief decision scientist at Gramener. Mr. Pedro Bittencourt, consultant at PSR Energy Consulting and Analytics. We also have Mr. Naeem Zafar, co-founder and CEO at TeleSense. And moderating this session is Mr. Bhat Dittakavi, founder, CEO, data scientist at Variance.ai. Welcome, gentlemen. We can't wait to hear your perspectives. Over to you, Mr. Bhat.
Thank you, Hardik, for that vibrant introduction of the panelists. First of all, it's a great opportunity for us to end this stupendous summit on a high note, bringing deep tech and analytics and sustainability together. And we are focused on, or we will be focused on conservation, not just limited to water and energy, but we'll be going broad scale. Could be biodiversity, could be human conservation and beyond. So I welcome the panelists again. We have again Naeem Zafar. He is a seasoned entrepreneur, seasoned executive, and an author. And also he teaches at top B schools. And then we have Sridhar Gadhi. He's into smart cities. And Sridhar Gadhi is also an award winner from World Economic Forum as a pioneering tech innovator. And then we have Rashida. Rashida is again our, this is the beauty of going by the list on the screen. And we have the panelists, Ganesh Kesari from Gramener. He's a chief decision scientist and co-founder. And so we have award-winning, multitasking, wearing multi-hats, experts and thought leaders on the panel. And we are talking about today deep tech. What is deep technology to begin with? Deep technology is not something like Uber or an app or a website or something that solves grocery kind of service problems. Deep tech has to do with a lot of research, a lot of decades of research getting from lab to the mainstream, lab to the marketplace. So the experts on the panel here have experience as scientists, some of them, data scientists, some of them, industry thought leaders. And this is a culmination of the summit wherein we are going to talk about deep tech startups, how they are making an impact on the sustainability. So we will be doing this panel in 3 rounds. The first round is going to be entrepreneurship, business. And the second round is going to be deep technologies. And the third round is going to be impact. So before we get into the first round, I just would like to remind you that deep tech is about solving impossible problems and making them possible. Deep tech is about having startups with the agility and mobility and short teams, but solving high impact problems. And hence, if you see, for example, Moderna is a startup and they proudly call themselves digital biotech. You could see in 11 months what they could achieve in terms of COVID vaccination. So deep technology has deep roots, not just in AI, ML, deep learning, but it's also having deep roots in blockchain, quantum, and biotechnology. So I welcome again the team here. And in the first round, as I mentioned before, we'll be getting into the business side, entrepreneurial side of each of the esteemed members here. So I will give the first question to Naeem. Naeem, talk about your industry. How did you decide to get into TeleSense? What made you get into the seed preservation, the grain preservation? Let me know more about the business side of you.
Well, so I'm an electrical engineer by training. So I've done several startup companies. So when I sold my last company to Oracle, I was thinking, what is the next big thing? Because what I learned in all the years of doing startups, it's not the idea, not even the team, it's the timing. Timing trumps everything. What was going on about 5-6 years ago was IoT, Internet of Things. Devices connected wirelessly to each other and making sense out of the data and taking appropriate action. Well, that's very broad. Okay, so that's good, IoT, but what's use case? So I looked at all kinds of use cases, actually even developed a product for seafood monitoring, but a product for vibrating machinery and predicting when it needs maintenance. Looked at dangerous gases in tunnels, so you can tell what is down there before you walk into the wrong cloud of fumes. Finally realized agriculture is the biggest industry in the world. People grow food, grain all over the world, and it's a thin profit margin business. You don't know, you're depending on the weather, bunch of other factors, and they barely make any money. Can we apply deep technology to solve the problem and minimize the waste in post-harvest grain? Because grain never improves in quality once you harvest it, but you have to store it. You're going to consume it throughout the year, but you harvest everything in the fall. So this was a very interesting and complicated problem, which really was not solved well in the last 50 years. So that was the incentive, that was the motivation, and we did make great strides, and we are, moving very nicely forward in having solved the problem with 500 customers using the product today.
That's great to know. And I will now turn the attention on Sridhar Gadhi. Give a brief on the business problem you're solving as an entrepreneur.
Once you're unmuted, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you, Ty and Bhat, for the opportunity, because sustainability and impact very close to my heart. So in terms of the problem, what we are solving is all over the world, there may be million cities. Only few cities you can name, like Paris, New York, 5 to 10% of the cities can really invest into digitization to provide better societies. So how do we help with our technology where this technology can be implemented at every city level? Personally, I'm a technologist by education experience. Personally, I built and sold software services as well as development company, both in India and US. So I always wanted to build one product of global scale. And also, of course, as sustainability is in my heart. So I was thinking, should I do a development, should I do a new product and then contribute back to the society, or combine and develop a unique technology where every dollar I spend, every minute I spend has impact on the society. That's how we started, smart city technology platform company, providing and outcomes to the society.
Excellent, excellent. The smart city technology, the democratization of smart city that you're doing, expanding geographies and then making more and more cities smart is something that you're contributing to the world. And let us pay our attention to Pedro. Pedro, I didn't miss your introduction. I was just saving that when my attention comes to you, I would talk about it. You're a pioneer in Brazil, and then you're from Rio. So we would like to know from your end, what kind of energy conservation you are into. What made you get into solving the problem of energy conservation and then bringing efficiencies in energy conservation? Go ahead.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. And in this term of sustainability and energy conservation, I delved into this theme at my PhD, that I wanted to make a positive impact in terms of climate change. And what we did is bringing the consumer closer to the energy market, giving them information to make better decisions, because we deeply believe that the first step is saving energy, because it has like this compounding effect on the supply chain. So 1 kilowatt hour you save on the consumer end, it's about 3 to 4 times that on generation. So conservation of energy has a huge potential to lower emissions and to bring consumers closer to the electricity markets and give them the flexibility to deal with this introduction of more renewables, that everything has to be more integrated. So the problem we solve is bringing digitalization to this energy consumption management, and bringing the consumer closer to the market. We deeply believe that greats improve the efficiency, market-wise and energy-wise.
Excellent. Excellent, Pedro. In fact, you're a PhD in electronics and artificial intelligence dropout. And you
I did not finish my PhD because I started my business at 2014, and that, as we all know here, is a full-time 100% job to be an entrepreneur. So I couldn't finish my PhD.
So that's a nice segue for us from Pedro to Ganesh. Pedro is a data scientist too, and Ganesh is chief decision scientist. He advises the executives of Gramener on what business problems to solve. He will just demystify what deep tech can do or can do. And I know Ganesh from Gramener has bigger role to play in propagating deep technologies through his blogging. And he's also very good at solving the sustainability issues and biodiversity, and many stories he's going to share along with Sridhar and of course Pedro and Naeem today. So Ganesh, why did you choose to be in the space of fundamental problem solving using deep tech? What made you get there?
Thanks, Bhat. Sustainability is not just good for the planet. It's a great business opportunity. Estimates say that with the implementation of the Paris Agreement, almost $13 trillion of economic potential is there to be unlocked. And similarly, the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, has another $12 trillion worth of potential. So the next trillion-dollar company is going to be forged in sustainability. As Gramener, we help organizations make better decisions with data, and we saw the need for nonprofits and startups in this space to tap into technology. And we see our role in enabling them and helping them achieve this potential. If you take the example of large tech organizations like Amazon and Google, they have been able to get into completely new industries, healthcare, financial services, or automotive. And they have been able to unseat the leaders in this space. How are they able to do that? It's the power of data and deep tech like AI. So that is the key to unlocking this potential and not viewing deep tech as just an enabler, but as a core part of the strategy. So that's the role that we see deep tech playing in tapping into this sustainability opportunity.
Very good. In this business segment, we just touched upon the problems that you're solving in your industry. But I would also like to go and expand upon that and then ask each of you about business viability. Ganesh, you said it right. 13 trillions and additional 12 trillions. The next unicorn is going to be, I mean, not just the unicorn, the 10x, 100x unicorn has to be sustainability driven. And in that context, I would like to ask you a question that probably answered the audience. Hey, is sustainability really viable? Is a startup in a sustainability world really viable? The viability side of it. So I will just swing back to Mr. Naeem, Zafar, and let me know, why do you think your business is viable? Why do you think startups in sustainability are really viable? End of the day, they have to pay their own money. So you're on mute.
I think the question is a weird question. It's like asking, is pharmaceutical a viable business because it does good? Yeah. I mean, these are two different things. So in other words, a business does not have to be a sustainability is solving a problem for the house we live in, the planet. So it doesn't mean that there's no profitable way to save the planet and do good things and improve quality of life or all the things which we value. So answer is, so I will say the question is not a suitable question. And answer is yes, of course it's viable. Just like pharmaceutical industry is viable, just like other things we do, which is on the benefit of humankind. And the fact is, now people are beginning to look at sustainability with a different lens. You're correct in the sense that many people thought that either you do good or you make money. And what we are saying is, what you're implying with your question is, does it have to be this way? And the answer is not at all. I mean, the business I'm in, which is using technology to save the world food supply. See, the world population is supposed to grow 28% in the next 30 years, from 7 billion to 9.1 billion by 2050. Is the land we grow crops growing up by 28%? No, actually it's going down. So you have to use technology just to be able to survive. And thank God we do have technology, we do have deep tech, we have motivation, and there's money to be made. So answer is yes.
Okay, I mean, definitely. I would like you to reaffirm for the audience, and absolutely. Just to let you know, deep technologies, the problems they're solving are so fundamental that they cover 97% of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations. So anything we touch, anything technology touches, it cannot get away from by not touching sustainability, so to speak. And let us get to Pedro. So Pedro, when you started this business, what kind of challenges did you face when it comes to building AI models for consumers and businesses and helping them bring energy efficiencies? So maybe share one or two challenges from the viability side. Focus is viability. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think first of all, the big challenge for startups that are tackling deep tech is to convince customers that what you're doing is a legitimate solution for their problem. So you need to prove in very practical ways. So this is a complete change from the academic background to the business background that you need to like boots on the ground and show your product working. So what we done to solve this is like we go to the potential customers and show them our solution working on showing them how they could save energy in a fully automatic manner. So they need to believe that the product was working and doing it by itself. At first, people like tend to think, oh, there's someone on a computer elsewhere that's analyzing our data and send these insights for us through a kind of chat. But no, I proved to them like this is actually the algorithms analyzing your consumption. And when they see that this gives results, like it creates some momentum, like people start to believing and sharing that the solution actually works. So I believe this is a general barrier on deep tech, convincing customers that this is a viable solution and this is a legitimate product that you can get benefits from.
You proved it by selling Green Ant recently, the one that you co-founded, and then congratulations on the exit that you made. And let us get to tweak the question a little bit from business viability to business models. So Sridhar, you said your business model is outcomes as a service. Elaborate on that. Give an example or a use case how you have leveraged outcomes for the customers to pay you based on outcomes your technology produced for them.
Sure. So I'll take what Ganesh mentioned. I'll take it from there. It's definitely $1 trillion opportunity in the sustainability space. And how we evolved outcome as a service. Now, question, can we really build $1 trillion? Can we really build a unicorn keeping sustainability in mind? So initially we were not successful. The models what we have started. So the idea is to provide economical, environmental, social sustainability long term. So when we started Smart City as a technology company, providing a technology platform to cities to operate all kinds of solutions from a single platform. You have to go and sell each technology platform to each city. It's not sustainable because every city doesn't buy technology. They wanted to buy outcomes. So we have seen that last 3-4 years, some of the Fortune 50 companies, some of those startups which went up to Series B and C could not really grow beyond certain extent. So if you look at our journey, what we have done is we have built a dashboard to operate the entire city infrastructure from a single platform. And we OEM to companies like Cisco and few other telecom operators, and they took our license and started selling as a technology platform. So then we understood that this can only take it to certain level. And initially, everybody was doing IoT platform, OT platform, AI platform, everything, and trying to put it into a single platform. And we said, you can sell 100 licenses, 150 licenses, but every city doesn't have smart city as a platform, as a mission. India has a 100 smart city mission. You said cities look for outcomes. They don't look for technology. I'll give you one example where outcome really works, economical, environmental, social benefit comes. Erie, Pennsylvania, in US, mayor called us in certain parts of the city, students were not performing well. When they have done further research, they found out that the kids doesn't have basic internet at home. So they couldn't do the homework. They had to go back to school to complete the homework. So mayor asked us, hey, can you help us to make a sustainable model? We don't have money. We can get federal budgets, but we need to have equal amount of investment from our side. I said, okay, we'll come with a model. We will build lighting, your lighting as a smart lighting. By converting lighting into smart lighting with LED and smart lighting using our technology, we could save 40 to 50% of the cost. That money, using the same lighting infrastructure, we could set up Wi-Fi services and provide free Wi-Fi services to the citizens in and around that area. First, the major problem is solved. Now you talk about economical, environmental, and social. There is a 40-50% of saving. There is a clear value there. And once you save 40-50% energy, there is a carbon emission reduction. There is a very, very clear saving there. Then obviously social, right? Most of the crime happens when there is no lighting, people gather, drink, and commit crime. When you control lighting from a single platform, you can predict when light goes down or when it's about to go down. So you will make sure that the 99% of the time lighting is on, which means that the crime reduction will be less, which is a social benefit. So city without investing in anything, you could make it very sustainable.
That's a great example on how a low budget, no budget city can still meet its goal by saving elsewhere and then reducing the carbon footprint at the same time. Excellent. I know you have lit millions of lights across the world and then brought efficiencies and conservation of energy that could be spent by the cities and governments elsewhere. So let us head to Ganesh. I would like to know about the business model that you guys are into and just expand upon with an example why that business model that you're in is really working for you.
Sure. So we have 4 focus verticals. ESG is one of them, environmental social governance. ESG is one of them. Just the same way we have seen tremendous growth in our pharma or manufacturing verticals, we've seen the equal amount of growth in ESG. About 5 years back, we established. So as part of this, we work on areas such as climate change, biodiversity, water. And we work with the nonprofits and startups in this space. And the way we have been able to sustain this is there are several larger organizations that provide grants for startups. Organizations like Microsoft, they have AI for Earth as an arm, part of Microsoft. They, in 2017, announced a $50 million grant for organizations working in water, energy, climate change. And till date, they have funded about 700 organizations across 80 countries. And this is an active one. So we have entered into 3-way arrangements where there is a organization which issues these grants. And there is the grantee or the startup. And then we come in as a technology solution and implementer. So this has been working beautifully, where the large organizations, they're investing to see the impact and supporting the growth of technology. Startups badly need that capability, and we are able to come in and fill in the gaps. So that's how the ESG business vertical we've been growing. We're seeing tremendous opportunities there. For example, a few years back, we worked with an organization called Argyem in India, also called the India Water Portal. The challenge was to track the progress with Indian initiative, the Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan, where they took the mission of making India open defecation free. So sanitation was a challenge. There was a 3,500 crore budget to construct toilets. And in partnership with Argyem, we built the Great Indian Toilet Tracker. So we used data storytelling to find out which districts are constructing. This was a pan-India initiative. Which districts are progressing well with construction of toilets? How much have they spent? We created a national leaderboard with visualization and visual metrics. We were able to find out which districts and states had spent a lot more than average, but were trailing behind. So this eventually was integrated into the Swachh Bharat mission, the website portal. And over the years, they've been course correcting it. There was tremendous progress, and a couple of years back, 2019, it was declared that almost all districts in India are open defecation free, and over 10.2 crore toilets were constructed. And one of the key factors which was crucial for the success was bringing in data analytics and storytelling. And the ministry was able to drive this nationally. So this is an example of how we can create impact using technology.
Excellent. That concludes the round of entrepreneurship and business. And let us jump our deep dive into deep technologies. And you may be aware, any deep technology startup typically works with at least convergence of two deep technologies. It could be IoT with machine learning. It could be machine learning with quantum computing. It could be biotic with AI, like the Moderna has done. So the question to you, again, the attention goes to Mr. Zafar. Zafar, just talk about the deep technology angle to your business when it comes to IoT and then predictive machine learning. And just let the audience know about how you are solving that fundamental business problem to do with preserving and conserving the grains for the farmers by leveraging how these technologies.
So grain, once you store it, is still breathing and evolving. It's a living thing. So inside, sometimes biological activities start because of moisture, could be mold, could be pests, and they start eating it and become hot, and hot is hot spot. It can even catch fire. You see these piles of grain going up in smoke from time to time, but they have mold and crud. So what do people do? Oftentimes, they just blend it together with good stuff. You don't notice the difference. That's why you see more people with allergies, the kind of food they cannot stand. We've been polluting our food supply in the last 50 years because of all the chemical use and whatnot. So idea is, can you detect this spoilage before it happens? Once we study it, it turns out the carbon dioxide level is one indicator. Moisture is one indicator. So you have to, if the CO2 level is going up, normal is 400, 500 parts per million. You see it going up to 700, 900, 1200, 1500, something is going on. It doesn't go up by itself. So you start putting sensors in the head space and what's coming in the silo. You start seeing the trends. You look at the moisture, because problem with the grain is, sure, if you could dry it to 12%, it's going to be there for good for 2 years. I'm talking about corn. Every grain is different. But when you harvest, it's 22%, 24%. More you dry it, you're losing weight, and you sell by the weight. So if I dry it, okay, I can save it, but then I don't get the full amount. What used to be 1,000 kilogram is now 920 kilograms. So I don't want to over dry it. If I don't dry it, I have mold, hot spot. So it's a constant struggle. How do they decide? Intuition. This old Dadaji looks at the, smells the grain and says, it's okay. Theek hai, chalega. So this is the kind of mentality there is. Now they have data coming into their mobile phones, and we give them precise instruction, turn the fan on bin number 6 for 8 hours at midnight. Because we know the weather forecast, we know the outside temperature. So we are beginning to predict what should they do to keep it in optimal condition. Depends on the grain, depends on the location of the storage bin, the history of the storage bin. Each storage bin has a unique thermal profile, unique ventilation profile. How many? So factoring all those things, learning the behavior, making adjustment. So telling a farmer through a text message what to do, priceless.
Excellent. I mean, in my conversation with Ganesh, we talked about personalizing. The way you bring personalization, to the things. It's not just IoT, but personalization to that bin, and then you're sensing the bin, and that is how you're solving the problem and saving the weight for the farmer, let the grains last longer, and in the process, you also mentioned one good thing about when you're controlling this humidity, when you're making sure you're conserving energy too. So because you're just optimizing everything out there, you're not doing anything in excess. So in the process, you are reducing carbon emissions, I can say. So,
exactly. No,
so
absolutely.
excellent.
You're over-drying, not over-drying it. So you're absolutely correct.
Excellent, excellent. And Pedro, I mean, when it comes to technology, data science, PhD, I mean, no one can beat you here. Just would like you to talk about how you brought this deep technology into B2B energy efficiencies. Talk a couple of lines. I know just to paraphrase what you mentioned. Your deep technology models take spaghetti of data, the electric units in different forms and shapes and sizes. And when you get these waves coming in as inputs like a spaghetti, you would untangle it through your deep learning models and then generate again the untangled waves for you to make better sense of which appliance, which industry machinery is consuming what at that machinery level. So enlighten us a little bit more about how you're leveraging this.
Yes, there's a common difficulty for the consumer to pinpoint whether he should act on energy efficiency. So if you are the manager of the big factory and you know there's something's off, that you are consuming too much energy, it's very hard to you to pinpoint exactly where and how you can act. So what we did at Green Ant is to have an algorithm that read data from sensors that get aggregated energy monitoring, like on the entry of the factory, like you are monitoring a huge conductor. So you are getting everything mixed up. So our algorithm is basically works just like our brain when hearing an orchestra play. We can hear the whole music. It's all tangled up in sound waves. But it's very easy for a human being to detect the difference between a violin and a tuba. So basically, the algorithms try to do the same. It's try to hear all the electrical orchestra of all the machinery playing and introducing noises and harmonics in the electric grid. And the algorithm tried to detect some patterns, like time series of patterns that identify specific consumptions of machinery, sometimes defects, common defects that affects the grid. So basically, the algorithms we've developed do this kind of untangling this energy data to pinpoint specific defects or improvement points within the factory to help the manager to identify where he could. So we take this data afterwards and translate it to insightful, easy to act upon information. So basically, that's the focus of how we apply deep neural networks into energy efficiency.
Very good, very good. I mean, that's a great analogy. When a band of musicians are playing, you have the clarity on each instrument and the signal coming from each instrument, and then you apply the similar models in your deep learning work, and then segregate which appliance is doing what, and then give the meaningful insights to your customers. So Sridhar, I would like to know from your end, maybe you want to throw in maybe one more example. I mean, this example that you mentioned is very interesting to me. We talked about Erie, Pennsylvania, that you addressed very well. I would like to know about how you have addressed the water pollution in Yamuna in Delhi.
Sure.
Through the sensors you have established at the STPs and in accordance with Green Tribunal of India. So go ahead and then talk about how DeepTech has worked in Yamuna and pollution of Yamuna.
So first of all, when you talk about smart cities, how it differentiates from digitizing single infrastructure. When you do lighting, parking, waste as a single use case, that's called digitization of infrastructure. When you call smart city, how do you bring different sources of data into a single platform to provide the intelligence? So here in this case, we use a lot of artificial intelligence. We do lots of video data, video AI. We do lots of sensor data, IoT data. So mixing together as a machine learning, we provide the actual outcomes. Coming back to Yamuna, so it's the biggest river in the country, and also it's one of the most polluted river in the country, and it passes through urban system. Since it passes through urban system, there is a huge problem of pollution, health challenges. There are several challenges for the city level. So how do we control? The Green Tribunal has certain parameters index which each STP has to meet. So as a technology platform, we collect different sources of data from STP and from the water levels and make sure that it matches to the tribunal parameters. As and when it doesn't match, immediately alert goes so the government can take actions to make sure that it meets the parameters and the city is pollution-less, the city is healthy.
Very good, very good. Very good, Sridhar. I mean, the kind of global impact you're making through your people, resources across the globe. I mean, you have presence in US, you have presence in UAE, you have presence in India, many cities, including Kerala. I mean, this is phenomenal. I mean, democratizing smart cities is something you have been doing, and that is so inspiring for all of us. And coming to Ganesh, we discussed about technology and the business problem you're solving. One specific business problem that you're addressing with the technology has to do with dengue. And tell me, how are you leveraging satellite imagery, people crowded in hotspots, and then the swarms of mosquitoes? I mean, how did you bring the story together using the technologies?
The tiny mosquito kills millions of people every year. And that's mosquito-borne diseases like dengue. They are a real menace, mostly in tropical countries, more so we have seen in India. So the World Mosquito Program has come up with an innovation to modify the mosquitoes with naturally occurring bacteria. Thereby, these mosquitoes lose the ability to carry any of these diseases. So the challenge that the World Mosquito Program faced was they have a few thousands of these mosquitoes. And once they release these into the open, the beauty is actually once the mosquitoes reproduce with other mosquitoes in the wild, the offspring also loses the ability to carry diseases. So that way, this is a very scalable solution. The key challenge is releasing it at the right spots so that they multiply with the other mosquitoes at scale and they replicate within the population. So earlier, the organization was using census surveys or other manual surveys and not very up-to-date data to release it. It was all trial and miss. So what we brought in was an AI solution. We use high-resolution satellite imagery to identify what are those spots, and we predict the population in a particular location by looking at the rooftops and the kind of buildings, identify what is the likely population in a locality. That's a very good proxy for the mosquito population. And then using the machine learning techniques and identifying how you can further identify an optimal release plan, we work out a complete plan with technology, and then that is given to the field staff. They just have to go in and release the mosquitoes there. And this is currently being rolled out across 12 countries, and this has the potential to save over 100 million people. And this is a joint collaboration with Microsoft and the World Mosquito Program. So this is how we bring in AI, satellite imagery, and a technology innovation of, say, modifying the mosquitoes to address a real world challenge.
Excellent. Just I would like you, on the same note, the way you segment the satellite imagery to the crowds and their hotspots. You have used the same segmentation technology using satellite imagery and drones for tracking elephants, tracking poachers. Maybe one line about that in Africa. Yeah.
A similar challenge is poaching in Africa. Right? So elephant, every 15 minutes, an elephant is killed somewhere. So we've used drone satellite imagery and applied computer vision to identify elephant from a picture. And this can be a crucial input for the rangers to identify where the animals are currently. And there's an organization which has actually taken this further and implemented a full solution they have drones which detect the elephants, and they also detect human movement, and they predict which of these could be poachers' movements. And they identify where and when the poachers would intersect the animals. And they send this information back to the rangers, so that this is the beauty of predictive analytics. The rangers can reach the spot even before the poachers can. And there have been several forests where they have completely halted killing of endangered species. And the very impactful examples of how you can save the planet with the AI.
Just very good. I mean, just to add to it, any deep technology system needs to have those environmental inputs. And one input you have is about the satellite imagery. Another input they can take is, and they're doing it really there in the jungles of South Africa. They have these hundreds of sensors implanted on the trees. And then the sensors are listening to the sounds of the jungle. And then they can classify, is this a sound coming from elephant? Is this the happy sound of elephant, or sad sound of elephant, distress sound of elephant? Then if it is a distress sound, send the ranger quickly there. So I mean, the biodiversity angle of deep technology is really, really inspiring. And we are into the last 6 minutes of the session, and I would like to get to the third segment, which is the triple bottom line: people, profits, and planet. Can a sustainability-driven startup financially become sustainable? Can they really make profits? I would like to hear from Mr. Zafar.
Answer is absolutely. And we're seeing many examples. Actually, all the panelists on this today have given us examples of companies which are directly addressing those social issues, climate issues, and can do that profitably. So answer is absolutely yes. See, what makes a business profitable? What makes a business profitable is having a good and scalable business model. Are you delivering value which people are willing to pay for? And in all the examples we just heard, from pollution in the cities to addressing disease through satellite imagery, these are all complicated problems which somebody is willing to pay for. So answer is absolutely yes. And actually, I'm surprised it has taken this long for this point to be obvious. This is not hard point to admire. And I guess people have done that. I mean, if you look at all other companies we have created in some way or another in the last 50 years, they have tried to advance how we live in some way better. Look at automobiles, look at electric cars, look at construction, look at all those things are improving. The only angle different with sustainability is now we're beginning to see the big picture. Sure, we can build construction and complicated machinery, but are we hurting something else? And can we do it in a way, minimize the hurt, so the total outcome is positive? So our focus has expanded. We pulled back the lens, and we're seeing example, yes, it's possible. And when Sridhar says it's $1 trillion+ possibility, he may even be underestimating it.
Correct. I mean, I just would like to know, the farmers work on thin margins, and then you go and sell the products for them, these sensors for the bins and for the silos, then you have to make good margins. I mean, just tell me how the finances work there. Maybe in one
it is tricky. Farmers are the most skeptical people you can sell to. So right. What we show them is that if they spend about $1 a ton with our solution, they should see a benefit of about $8 per ton.
There you go.
And we have examples of people even getting more than that. So for example, you have 5,000 tons of wheat stored somewhere. In the US, after spring, it's time to start selling slowly. And the price fluctuates every day. If you did not know what was the quality of stored 5,000 tons, you want to say, hey, yaar, let's sell it as soon as an order comes in, le jao. But if you knew the quality and knew the thing, you may say, wait a minute, it's pretty good shape. I can hang on another 4 weeks, 6 weeks. If you look at the price charts, the difference between price fluctuating over that 3 months is tremendous. So by just knowing what's going on, delaying your selling decision for 4 weeks, you could make an extra $250,000. This kind of a knowledge, they can see that. They can compute that this will be beneficial, and that's how they justify it. So they have to see a value. Every customer in all of our cases have to see a value which justifies. And the good news is we are able to demonstrate.
And that is great. I mean, if you could really show them the value, show them that they could make more money by conserving the grain, and then know when is there a demand for it, so they can hold on to it before they garage sell it, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's predictive analytics, that's artificial
Absolutely.
intelligence. They don't have to know all that. They just
Correct.
know when the optimal time to sell.
Absolutely. So optimization and forecasting and all of that play ingredient internal role in solving these fundamental problems. Pedro, you have, through your Green Ant startup, solved a problem for a brewery or a beer maker, and you saved $500,000 for them. Maybe I'm underestimating that. Talk about it. How did you make that change? And also talk about the impact. I mean, again, it's important that each of the panelists, we are in the last round, we are talking about triple P, triple bottom line, and how you are helping the planet, how you are getting the return on investment for your investors, for your customers, and return on investment for the people in society in general, not just your employees. And most importantly, return on investment to the Mother Earth. How are we paying back Mother Earth? So keep in mind when you answer this question. So go ahead, Pedro, talk about it.
No, exactly. Just the brewing case is like a huge brewing factory that has like hundreds, maybe thousands of different machinery within, and all these machines need to be calibrated and be working well together. So we were able to detect some of them that were not working very well within the production line. So we help them calibrate and find the adjustments to make them work better, like to optimize the production line, so that, as Mr. Zafar commented, it generates value directly to the customer. So this is the first point, I think. So you are actually selling real value. So there's real value being delivered to the customer, and have like those second and third term consequences, like energy saving. It's our focus. We see energy saving as the first and the foremost manner you must do to reduce carbon footprint on energy, on electricity, because every kilowatt you save is a lot of CO2 you don't put on the atmosphere on the other end. So we deeply believe that the first step before renewables, before solar, before anything else is efficiency. So if you have an efficient use of energy, you will create some multiples of the impact to the environment on reducing your carbon footprint. So in this particular case of the brewing, we save them a lot of money, but we also save a lot of energy that translated to a lot of CO2 that they avoided emissions. So in the future, we hope that they get the benefits from avoiding CO2 also. It will become more valuable to help the planet. And in terms of people, I deeply believe that we are going through this energy transformation that brings up a lot of not only infrastructure, but a completely new mindset and new businesses on clean tech. And this is a great opportunity to create more jobs into clean tech, to make people capacitated to work into this, and to create social benefits where it's most needed. So you create new jobs and people get back working, and that creates some kind of a snowball effect on economies, especially here in Brazil, when we are recovering our economy here.
Very good, Pedro. I mean, it is very impressive to learn from Pedro. During my earlier conversation, 70% of energy consumption in Brazil comes from renewable alternate energy sources. 70% is very impressive. Of course, they have the power of this hydro. Nevertheless, they are not burning fossil fuels as many of the other countries. And then what you're doing is you're conserving that energy, bringing efficiencies, and hence we are burning relatively less fossil fuels even from that 30%. And then you're paying back in that sense. But that's not enough. We have to continue to bring things to net zero and beyond. And let's get to Sridhar Gadhi. Sridhar, talk about the triple bottom line. I know this is close to your heart. The environment, the society, and economy, this is close to your heart. Talk to me about it, the triple bottom line. How are you adding back to the Mother Earth?
I mean, there are several use cases which I can talk about. So since I spoke about most of these solutions, either has a huge operational efficiency or revenue creation, which you can invest into several social technologies. I'll just give you, since you talked about mother. So let's say, for example, city like Delhi, you wanted to have much more less polluted city. The traditional way of doing it would be having sensors in every part of the city and trying to measure the quality index and then take some actions on it. So changing the routing directions or setting up the new rules or having alternative car number going on a specific day. What we have done using AI technology to save mother in terms of the pollution level is you put sensors, environment sensors in very strategic locations, very few locations, and using AI platform and collecting different sources of data, topological data, satellite data, regular traffic data, then you will be able to create AI models to predict at 95% of the accuracy how the pollution levels are at the entire city. Now, with a very limited amount of investment, you'll be able to understand the entire city, and then you can plan. Either it could be traffic planning, or it could be future master planning, so that where the high-rise buildings can be built, where it's not supposed to be built, and you can control the pollution levels. Just to give you one example.
Excellent. In fact, not only aggregating sensors at key locations in a really busy city that is highly polluted, the most polluted probably in the world, you also talked about one example that it really impressed me. When I asked you, is this all about bottom line? I mean, are you on bringing cost efficiencies? How about improving the top line? Then
Sure.
you talked about an example of how in UAE, instead of having sensors on the poles, you have sensors on the school buses. Talk to me about that in one line.
Definitely. If you go to cities, either the biggest challenge, the safety issue, is the traffic violation. People violate traffic and it makes accidents. There are some technologies in common intersections. There are speeding control cameras where they issue the tickets. But what happens when a school bus is going in and around from home to school? There could be so many traffic violations in and around the school bus. That's a huge safety issue for the kids. And you cannot have cameras everywhere. What we have done is we have put a video technology at every school bus level, so that each and every car which is going in and around the school bus, immediately traffic violation ticket can be created. What we achieved first is obviously safety of the students, because once you get the tickets, people start following the rules. Second, city doesn't have to invest, because we, through a fund invested in money into the project, around $16 million. So city doesn't have to invest any money into it. And there is a revenue generation because of the collection of the traffic violation. That money will be shared back to the fund, as well as city is very self-sustainable, this investment, because they get continuous revenues to maintain this. And we as a technology company, we get for what we provided as a technology, and for each outcome, we get a recurring revenue. So here you have all the stakeholders getting the bottom line, including economical, environmental, social. It has all the stakeholders get the benefit. It's not even triple, it's every stakeholder.
I see. Very good, Sridhar. So Ganesh, what is your take on triple bottom line, and share about how you're bringing collective awareness and profits to your business and value add to the Mother Earth?
So the great examples we've heard, but compared to any other project for other enterprises, work in this area gives great satisfaction, because it helps contribute to your own business, to the client's business. It helps contribute to the society, and it helps save the planet. We've talked about several examples where organizations using deep tech are able to achieve that cost saving or top line impact. And additionally, I would like to add that companies that use technologies like AI and other deep tech are hot acquisition targets by these larger companies. There have been a spate of acquisitions, hundreds of companies every single year, the last couple of years. And a lot of acquisition is happening in agri and in sustainability space. So that's another incentive to build a business here. And similarly, we talked about impact on society. We talked about the example with mosquitoes and control of diseases. And also we talked about biodiversity and several other areas where you can save the planet. So that way, this is a perfect package of benefits for someone willing to enter and build a business in this space.
Excellent. I mean, we have
one quick moment. We just have a couple of minutes. We need to wrap up, please.
That's it. Yeah, we are just wrapping it up. So we have talked about how the deep technology, the definition by which is about solving fundamental problems, impacting the society, impacting the environment, and then impacting the economics of a given state. And we talked about how biodiversity, let that be elephants, let that be birds, let that be anything to do with conservation of the nature that Ganesh addressed. We talked about Sridhar, smart cities, democratizing them, and not only just democratizing them, but making sure if you're measuring 6 parameters in a city, let that be traffic, let that be the consumption of electricity, street lighting versus water, and all of that, how do you integrate all of them as an integrated solution that we heard from Sridhar, and then we have heard about energy conservation and using deep tech, and then disentangling the spaghetti of the signals coming from the appliances. And from Pedro and Naeem has been on the ground, solving on the ground farmer problems, very difficult to sell, but then he is selling in their own language. So collectively, we believe we are culminating this particular summit with telling the world that there is big money in sustainability. There is big value in sustainability. It is all about society, environment, and economics. So thank you, panelists. I hope you had great time, and see you next time.
Thank you, Bhat. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Great to be here with you all.